Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Speak what is true. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Speak what is true. I am found, I am yours, I am loved, I'm made pure, I have life, I can breathe, I am healed, I am free. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Speak what is true, 'cause I am found, I am yours, I am loved, I'm made pure, I have life, I can breathe, I am healed, I am free. You are strong, you are sure, you are light, you endure, you are good, always true. You are light, breaking through. Oh, here's speak what is true. Speak what is true. Speak what is true. Speak what is true. I am found, I am yours, I am loved, I'm made pure, I have life, I can breathe, I am healed, I am free. 'Cause you are strong, you are sure, you are light, you endure, you are good, always true. You are light, breaking through. You are more than enough. You are here. You are love. You are hope. You are grace. You're all I have. You're everything. So raise our voices and sing together. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my
let's have a few moments maintaining silence as we take the words of that song into our hearts, knowing that we are here willing to open our minds and our hearts to the voice of Spirit, that we're here together tonight to be united as brothers and sisters on this very sacred path of awakening and of knowing who we truly are and who it is that we see when we look into the eyes of our brothers and sisters. Let's take a few moments also to pray our own personal prayers for our lives, our loved ones. Pray for our community, our country. Remembering that we are conduits of life and love and light. And we take on this very essential role as people who continue to open our hearts and open our minds to be a loving presence in the world. So when things are going good, we can open our mind, open our hearts, and extend love. And when things are not going good, we can open our minds, open our hearts, and extend love. That's why we're here. So giving thanks for this evening, for one another, and for opening to the voice of Spirit. We give thanks. Amen. Namaste. Welcome, everybody. It's good to be here with all of you. I've been hearing a lot of people talking about being exhausted. It's sort of a recurring theme that regardless of what's going on physically, people are exhausted. You know, they could be laying around all day and they're exhausted. Or they could be running a marathon training and they're exhausted. So someone said to me the other day, I'm just so exhausted and I don't know why. And I said, you don't know why? Let's review. Let's review. We are all exhausted because of 2020. We are 11 months into one of the most exhausting years of our lives. It's been exhausting physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually too. I mean, there's like an endless list of things that have gone on this year. But the biggest ones that have gone on have caused fear, a lot of fear. You know, the pandemic is one. The social and political unrest is another. So I have come to the consciousness, I don't know if everyone would agree with me, but I believe that exhaustion from the Course in Miracles perspective would be fear. It would be the basis of our exhaustion is our fear reaction to everything that's been going on in our world in 2020. So I want to talk about that a little bit tonight. And so then I was thinking about how am I going to talk about it? Like what? Because, you know, a lot of times it's not about my idea of what I want to talk about. You know, it's like I'll think we're going to talk about something and then Spirit comes in and redirects me. But this time it seemed like exhaustion continued to come up as a theme and as a complaint and as a concern that people were having. So I was recycling some old messages that I've given in the past. You know, I used to do congregational work, so I had my messages in a file, and I was going through them. And I came across one that I said, oh, I'll tell this story. It's a story about exhaustion. And later on, like 3 or 4 days later, one of my Facebook friends put on a video on her page that was a video about the exact same story that I had made a note to tell you. So I thought, well, there's confirmation, number one. Right, spiritual synchronicity, that's right. And then I would just open up my book to see what our lesson was for the day, but instead of opening up to the lesson, which I always have marked, it opened up to a different lesson, lesson 161. So I said, okay, so we're going to talk about 161. I'm going to tell you the story that had that synchronistic confirmation that I should tell that story, and see how it gives us a sense of what to do with our exhaustion, with our fear, underlying fear that's causing this fatigue, like this just overwhelming 2020 fatigue. Somebody should come up with a name for it, you know. It used to be that, you know, we had compassion fatigue or grief fatigue, all these things that were happening in multiples, you know, when they were in our life. But this is just 2020 fatigue. What were you saying, Lisa? We all. So yeah, it's all. I mean, it's a bunch of stuff, right? So I want to talk about that. But first, I have to step back. For those of you who watch online, you know that every week I have technical difficulties. I don't know why. I do the same thing every week, but there's always something that glitches. I don't know why. I really don't know why. There's probably a reason. There's probably a user reason that we have these glitches, but we continue to have glitches. In addition to that, the last week's sacred gathering, which we televise or, you know, live stream, what I do every week is I move it from Facebook to my YouTube channel, which is Rev Lori Cardona. Facebook and YouTube are both cracking down on copyrighted material. So last week when I moved the archived Facebook video to YouTube, it uploaded, but it won't show. I mean, you can even check it. If you go to the YouTube channel, it'll say blocked. And they sent me a note saying that we're not going to stop you from, you know, uploading videos, but you have to stop using copyrighted material. So I usually have 3 videos every week. I have the opening video where we all sing the same song every time. But last week I played a different Here's My Heart. Remember, I played a different version for those of you who watched it, and that's the one that got blocked. And so it's funny because I've been playing Here's My Heart for 5 years, and every now and then I throw out a different version, and usually people are like, nah, let's go back to the Lauren Daigle version. So this time YouTube took down the version that I wanted. So we'll stick to Lauren Daigle because we haven't been blocked for her.
She might have given permission.
Well, what happens is if you upload like official videos, they can get blocked. But if somebody else uploads like a lyrics video, like that particular one that we used was uploaded by a pastor at a church somewhere. So I'm going to try to find videos that are royalty free, or perhaps uploaded by someone other than the official keeper of that video, the official owner of that video. All this to say that you're better off being on the live stream at 9 o'clock on Thursday or here with me, because there's a chance we might get blocked based on what we do. And I don't want to change what we do. What we do is sacred. This is our sacred gathering. I always say your Thursday is my Sunday. To me, this is our time to be together in praise and prayer and meditation. Yes, we have discussion about the material of A Course in Miracles, but it's not just about discussing it. It's about integrating it. It's about living it. And it's about having our time in meditation together in prayer and singing and all of that comes with it. So that's just a little FYI of what's going on behind the scenes. That was like a commercial break from my exhaustion conversation, even though that was probably exhausting, what I just said. But anyway, so if you go to look at an archived video and it's not there, or you go to my YouTube channel and it's blocked, that's the reason, because it was copyrighted material. So, okay. So I wanted to address this sort of global fatigue, this fatigue of 2020, and also it's not just us. I mean, the numbers are going back up in terms of the pandemic in other parts of the world and in our country. So just when you thought you were going to get a break, it doesn't seem as this pandemic has evaporated, that we're out of the woods just yet. And so we have to go into the holidays, making big changes in terms of how we would normally approach the holidays. So my intention wasn't to put a damper on your evening, but to address some of this stuff. And I wanted to look at number one, the thing that came up for me, when I opened the book for today's lesson, it actually opened up to lesson 161, which was back in June 10th. The lesson for June 10th was 161. And the reason June 10th is important is because I'm going to be referring to the Ken Wapnick commentary as I discuss lesson 161.
It's my ordination.
But, that was your ordination, June 10th?
Yeah.
2018.
Yeah, this is my brother's birthday.
Oh, nice. Nice. Happy anniversary. Past tense. So June 10th was 10 days before my ordination anniversary. And on my ordination anniversary, I received this wonderful gift of commentary by Ken Wapnick from Reverend Lisa and her loving husband, Jack. Paul.
You can call him Paul.
I changed your name last week.
Thomasina.
So, yeah, she was Thomasina last week. So.
Bet you can't wait to hear it.
Lisa and Paul, they've been together for more than 40 years. She never forgets his name. I occasionally mess up, and I don't know why. I just give people new names. But anyway, so they gave me as a gift for my 20-year anniversary this commentary. And when I went to look at it today, it was like amazing, like 8 pages of commentary. That's how important this lesson is, 161. So it was, again, this concept of spiritual synchronicity, of continuously getting these messages from Spirit that are consistent around what it is we should be talking about. So I wanted to focus on one aspect of this because, like I said, it's a long lesson and it's also a very long commentary. And I'm not going to belabor the point and go on and on into the night with just this one lesson, but I do want to discuss a few things. So the line in the lesson that really struck me when I was making the comparison to the concept of exhaustion to being a reflection of fear, I opened up to this lesson, June 10th, 161. Paragraph 7, and it's actually not the first line. I'm going to go down a few lines. It says, fear is insatiable, consuming everything its eyes behold, seeing itself in everything, compelled to turn upon itself. So why is that such an important line? That it really struck me, and it was even underlined and highlighted, so I must have, noted that once before. Because when we are in fear, when we are exhausted because of fear, it seems to consume everything. It especially 2020, it seems like there's not a break from it because we're looking outside of us for a break. And so the Course always reminds us that the relief is an internal process. It's that which we find inside ourselves. That which we strive for, to continuously be in our spiritual practices, finding that place of peace, even if it's just for a moment, if it's just for a recognition in the course of your prayer time or your praise time, where you feel a little bit of relief. And to go back and be able to hold on to that relief is a way to keep fear from consuming you, from becoming all-consuming just because there's one more thing. Right? Because 2020 is one thing after the other. And so it's probably not a good idea to ask what else, because we'll find out, It's like always something. And so to be in fear of what else is to get exhausted because we're not using the spiritual resources that are endless and beyond anything that we can conceive of with our limited mind. There's an unlimited resource of peace within us. We just have to be really willing to dig in, to find it, and to hold on to it, to allow it to be a part of our daily existence. In spite of fear. In spite of fear. Because the fear is there. The exhaustion is there. So I wanted to read from Ken Wapnick. Did you want to say something? I see your wheels turning. No. If you could see what I see all these wheels turning. But we're kind of like we kind of like have this Oprah after show thing though, because you guys are not privy to that because we turn this off and we continue talking. So some of those things that people put bookmarks in, they come up later. We get to talk about that stuff. So here, Ken Wapnick refers to that same line that says, fear is insatiable, consuming everything its eyes behold, seeing itself in everything, compelled to turn upon itself. And he says, the above passage on the ego's vicious dogs of fear, trained to search out evildoers and devour them in obedience to their master's dictates. As Jesus emphasizes elsewhere, the ego's goal is murder. Now, when I read that today, I said, Jesus, that's pretty dramatic. You know? I mean, that sounds so dramatic. But elsewhere in the book, it talks about how the ego is like a vicious dog. It's like a vicious dog that wants to take its idea of what's bad and bring it to its master to be destroyed. Now, here's an interesting thing. My friend Melanie, who's online, I believe, got a new dog, big dog, like a 75-pound lab. Nice. A beautiful dog, cute and sweet, rescue dog, right? So we went to walk Ernesto with the dog. Now, Ernesto is not that dog friendly. He barks at dogs and he does not like big dogs. He lunges at them. So I took Ernesto over to her house and he started shaking. He started shaking so tremendously. I thought he was gonna have a little doggy heart attack. He was shaking like this. You know, do you ever see those pictures of people who go into like horror situations or like those kill shelters where the dogs are gonna get killed and they show you the dog shaking really badly? That's how he was shaking. Horrible. I felt so bad for him. So, I was trying to calm him down. And I realized that when he's barking and lunging, it's really fear. It's really his fear. And it's like someone once said that anger is fear's bitchy little sister. It's a way to like express itself to hide the fear that's underneath. So he had nowhere to go because he was in the house with the dog and he just started shaking something off on it. It was really, really sad. And then I read this paragraph that talks about fear like a vicious dog. And we're always trying to, adjust ourselves to life circumstances. But we have fear and we have exhaustion. And so the Course is telling us to come back to our spiritual practices, to remind us that the spiritual practices is going to give us some sense of some warmth and hominess, to be in the imagination of being in the arms of love, of a loving source, of a loving God who sees all of this as just temporary and wanting us to just feel at peace, wanting us to feel loved. And, building up to the election last week, it was palpable the way the energy was so tense and everybody was mad. Some people were mad, some people were happy, some people were sad. And I was like, oh, why can't we just relax? Just relax and let it be, just let it be. And now we're finding that as people on the sacred path, as people who are doing spiritual practices, that's really the only place where we're going to find relief. Because there's just so much going on. So he actually says, and I encourage everyone to go back to 161, because he says in the very beginning, Ken Wapnick that is, he says this is an important lesson because of its integration of two levels, the Course's abstract metaphysics and specific applications to our daily lives. It is thus particularly deserving of our thoughtful attention and study. So that could be like your homework for this week, to go back to lesson 161 and really study it. And if you have the luxury of a commentary book, and there's two commentary books, as you know, you might have one or the other, or you might not have either one, and don't worry about that. The other one is the workbook companion by Alan Watson and Robert Perry. But the nice thing about the website called Circle of Atonement is that you can look up commentary. You can look up Robert Perry's commentary. So if you wanted to, if this lesson is inspiring you and you'd like to dig in a little deeper, because I don't want to spend the whole night talking about it, but I did want to point out how important it is to recognize that exhaustion and fear is because we are looking at everything that is out there, that is influencing how we see the world and our perception of how we see the world. So if we can find peace in the moments, if we can find peace in our own quiet time, then at least that peace is a gift for that day. And then we could extend it out to others. You know, if you have the luxury of taking a walk on the beach or being under a tree, you know, going into nature and just feeling calm, bringing yourself to calmness and peace. And then when other things happen in the day, those little agitations, those little aggravations, and maybe you can remember your peace and not get so caught up in the vibration of upset. You know, we started having a little bit of a political discussion here before we started live stream, and then we decided we're not going to talk politics. You know, we're not going to do that because.
Roy just told us to stop.
Okay, I told you to stop talking. But this is a democracy. We voted. Well, the thing is that there's an energy to everything, right? There's an energy to our words. There's an energy to our emotions. There's an energy to our conversations. And if you're going to go into sacred time on the heels of a conversation that's upsetting you, it takes you longer to get grounded. And that's why I hit the crystal bowl before we start. Everyone who is in attendance has the vibration of the crystal bowl brought to them directly, and we put it over our ears and up to our hearts. And it has this wonderful vibration that seems to go inside your entire chakra system. I wonder if you guys can feel it over there. See if you can feel it. So we do this before we start the class so that, you know, anybody who still has their mind racing can get grounded. And there's things that we can always do to ground ourselves. And again, in spite of what else is going on out there, especially because of things that are going on out there that seem to create fear and havoc within our own nervous systems. So this is very extensive. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I just want to point out the fact that long before we got here, long before we became students of A Course in Miracles, there has always been a mystic's path. You know, the Vedanta goes back to, you know, prehistoric times. I don't know if that's prehistoric.
I think it's the earliest writings of any kind.
Certainly ancient
anywhere.
times.
Yeah,
Certainly
absolutely.
ancient times. And the message was the same. The message has not changed. To find the place within yourself where you can get centered and balanced and find peace. Whatever language we use, whether we use the language of the Buddha, the Vedanta, the Sufis, or A Course in Miracles. It doesn't matter what words we use. It doesn't even matter what books we use. What matters is that we find our way inside. And that's why any sort of political unrest that's tied into religion is a problem. You know, and there's some countries where there are fundamentalists, and it could be any religion that has a fundamentalist control of the people. You know, I think about the Tibetan people, for example. You know, the Dalai Lama is in exile from his own country, and yet Tibet continues to thrive. The people of Tibet who are trying to separate themselves from China, from Chinese rule. That doesn't happen. They get tortured, you know, they get imprisoned, but they continue. And if you go to Tibet, it's like everybody you don't separate Tibet from Buddhism. They're living their spiritual life. And we can do that too. We were talking earlier about Efun Lyle, my friend, the priestess Efun Lyle, who gave a wonderful keynote for the first class of Sacred Journey Interfaith Seminary, and she was saying, oh, it's like she just floats, on air. She has like this spiritual air about her, and it's because she lives her spirituality. Whether she's running around the track or exercising or doing African rituals, she's living that life, and that's what we all aspire to live a life where we can find our peace, regardless of what we're doing in the world, regardless of how we're interacting in the world. So let's take that to a time of meditation. Let's just take that concept to a time of meditation, that we are not going to let 2020 and all the upsets of 2020 exhaust us to the point where we no longer have that desire, that willingness to continue doing our spiritual work. That is what is ultimately the most important. So in this lesson, interestingly enough, in this lesson, our brother Jesus actually builds into the lesson a meditation. And it's in lesson 161 in the 11th paragraph. And he tells us he says, select one brother who can be a symbol of all brothers and ask salvation of him. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on a nice piece of music, and I'm going to read that meditation from the Robert Perry commentary book, because it's a little bit more extensive, and I want you to really have this experience. So I'm going to get us a nice piece of music. We're not going to do it here, no, because we could get in trouble. So everybody, where you are, just take a nice deep breath and think about this concept. Think about the exhaustion you've been feeling in 2020, the fear you've been feeling in 2020, and ask Spirit now to help you to see where you can release some of your fear. And the guided meditation is actually going to be asking us to pick someone to represent our upsets, right? So take that moment to think about who you want to represent your upsets. So take a nice deep breath. Right where you are. Speaking of glitches, I had this set up earlier, but I'm going to read it to you, and we'll just get some background music so that you can have a sense of meditative environment. Hand on your heart. So we begin together with our hand on our heart. Take a nice deep breath. Feel your heartbeat. Give thanks for your heartbeat. Give thanks for the power of your heart to extend love and kindness out into the world, to be a conduit of love, a conduit of light. And as the lesson asks us to pick a person, bring a person to mind who is a symbol of your exhaustion, your fear, your upset, your anger. Visualize this person as clearly as you can. His or her face, hands, feet, clothing, smile, gestures. Doing this gets you in touch with all the positive and negative attributes you've projected onto this person. And this person is a symbol, so imagine that through this meditation, whatever you are forgiving, releasing through this person, you are generalizing to all people. Realize that any negative attributes that you are seeing blocks the vision of your Savior, of your Guru, Because deep inside this person is a holy being who, like a great spiritual master, can enlighten you with his or her blessing and can free you from your self-imposed chains. If you saw this person for who they really are, you would be tempted to kneel at their feet. So notice whatever resistance you have in you for that. And whatever resistance you have, extend light all through the image of this person. Just extend light and love, extend light and love, so that this person becomes a holy being in your sight. They've gone from someone you dislike, or that you've projected anger, you've projected political views, you've projected upset, you've projected all sorts of things onto this person, and now you're going to see them engulfed in light and transformed into a holy being, a holy, sacred master. Push yourself, push yourself. Don't forget, it's only for a moment. Whatever resistance you have, just allow yourself, suspend all doubt, suspend all resistance. You find yourself very resistant, put your hand on your heart and take a deep breath, tap your heart. Ask your heart to open a little bit more to this idea that this person can be a being of light, a holy one. And now ask this holy being to set you free. Say within your mind's eye and within your quiet voice, give me your blessing, holy child of God. I would behold you with the eyes of Christ and see perfection in you and in me. I'm going to repeat this line again. Give me your blessing, holy child of God. I would behold you with the eyes of Christ and see the perfection in you and in me. It's a reflection from you to me. You've called on the Christ in him, and the Christ in him will answer you. Not in the physical being, but in the spiritual being, in the spiritual realms. Allow that person's light to speak to you, to answer you, to come to you. The scales will fall off your eyes, and you will realize that you have been completely wrong. And you can behold him now, whom you have seen as merely flesh and bone, and recognize that Christ has come to you, and come to you to reveal the Christ in your own self. And remind yourself, when a brother or a circumstance causes upset in me, instead of listening to the ego and agreeing that this person or circumstance is the cause of my anger, let me see that this is a blessing that reveals to me that I have dropped the hand of spirit. I have lost the connection to my source and to my God. That place that I found, even just momentarily, that place of peace. So let's take a few moments again, breathing deeply, consciously, your hand on your heart. And see if you can extend this vision of a light-filled being to another person. And then to another. Imagine a room filled with people who are just ignited by this light, one to the next, to the next, to the next. Like a candle, like the flame of a candle that doesn't extinguish, it just continues adding more flame, more light, more flame, more light. Imagine that within your heart, this flame of light has become so bright and so strong that there's no year of difficulty that can extinguish it. Bring that light to yourself. See yourself filled with light. Imagine that you're standing before a full-length mirror and you're seeing this beautiful being of light that is you. It is you. You can barely even see the physical self because you see such bright light. The bright light of who you are. And when exhaustion comes, you bring yourself back to this image. When fear comes, you bring yourself back to this image. And the words you said to your brother or sister are words you can say to yourself. The love that you extended to your brother or your sister. Give me your blessing, holy child of God. I would behold you with the eyes of Christ and see my perfection reflected in you. And so I'll take a nice deep breath together. Release our breath, release our hands. Let's hold our hands up. And if you've been held in your hands to your heart, your hands should be tingling with the energy of your heart, with the light and love of your heart. We send it out into our world, to one another, to our country. Sending light and love over the White House, over all of Washington, D.C., to bring us all together, bring all the people together, every party. Just keep extending love and light. See the White House filled with love and light, just brightening the sky. And then take all that light and bring it into your entire chakra system. Hold the light in your heart. So let's just say amen to that. Amen to that. Amen to that opportunity to remember who we are and how we can overcome the exhaustion and the fear of this particular year, which is like no other we've ever experienced. So I want to tell you the story now. We're going to end with a story. I said that I was recycling some old messages, and I came across one that I had told a long time ago, and then the confirmation to tell the story came from a Facebook post. So the story is it's come from the Buddhist tradition, and I tell it a little bit different than it's told in the video, so I'm going to tell my version because that's the one I know. It's a story of Buddha taking some of his followers to a new village. They were going to go to a new village and teach and pray and be with the people. And so they all packed up all their stuff and they headed out. So they walked about 5 miles. They were getting tired. And the Buddha said, no, it's just about 5 more miles. We can do it. Let's just keep going. So they walked about 5 more miles. I'm holding on because my math isn't good, so I have to remember. 5, 10, 15. So they were saying, it's the sun's starting to go down. Maybe we should stop for the night. And he says, well, we need to find out exactly where this place is because I've never been there before. And there's a farmer over in the distance. We're going to go talk to him and find out where's this town. So they go over to the farmer, and he says, oh, it's just 5 miles down the road. So the Buddha starts laughing. And he's like, oh, great, now we know. And he hugs the guy, and it's like they're old friends. So they go 5 more miles down the road. So now they've walked 15 miles. And they're like, okay, it's getting dark. We need to stop. It's exhausting. We're exhausted. So he says, well, I kind of feel like we're close. Why don't we ask this lady over here who's pulling some corn, where's this town? So they go over and they ask the lady, and she goes, oh, it's just 5 miles down the road. So the Buddha laughs and he hugs her. He's like, oh, thank you, thank you. So they go 5 more miles, and then 5 more miles. And then every time they stop, the person that they ask says 5 more miles. So finally they arrive at the town. And they said, Buddha, we've traveled 35 miles. Why did you tell us it was only 5 miles? And he said, because when we started this journey, if I would have told you that we have to walk 35 miles, you would have been exhausted after the first 5 miles. But every time we got to 5 miles, you thought, well, there's only 5 more miles. And you didn't know what was in you. You didn't know what you had in you to keep going. You didn't know, you didn't believe in yourself. If I would have told you it's 35 miles, you wouldn't have thought you had it in you to walk that far. And you would have been tired, and you would have been scared, and you would have been exhausted, and you would not have wanted to continue that walk. But I believed in you. I knew you had it in you. So every time I stopped and they said 5 more miles, I didn't know who they were. I just laughed because they knew that you had it in you. So if we would have started 2020 and somebody would have said to you, this is what you've got going this year. Because we all went into 2020 like, oh, you know, we had our Happy New Year, we sang, you know, and we were like so excited for this new decade. But if somebody would have told you at the end of 2019, this is what's going to go on in 2020. There's going to be a global pandemic. You're going to get shut into your house. You're going to be socially isolated. You're going to have to wear a mask. There's going to be civil unrest. People are going to be hurt. We're going to see it on TV. We're going to actually witness a murder. And then politics is just going to be chaos. Happy New Year. You wouldn't have thought you had it in you. You wouldn't have thought you had it in you. We now get to see the big picture. We only get increments. We live every day through the increments of that day. When we wake up in the morning and we say, I've got 24 hours ahead of me, I can make a decision as to how I'm going to present myself, live my life, who I'm going to be in those next 24 hours to make the best of it that I can. But if I have to know the 11 months that brought me here, I wouldn't have thought that I wanted to even proceed as a person of faith. I wouldn't have wanted to have these weekly meetings. I would have just wanted to curl up in my bed and wait for 2021. So the story of the Buddha is the fact that we all have it in us. We don't know the big picture, and there's a reason for that. There's a reason we don't know the big picture. But we can live our lives every day with the understanding that this exhaustion is something that we can address, that we can remove ourselves from by going deeply in within ourselves to find the spiritual strength, like the raven who gets stronger in the storm, to find the strength within ourselves. Deep breath. Amen to that?
Amen.
So we're going to end with a song that I hope we've heard it before, and I hope that that it will not block anyone from seeing the video after today. If it does, then I will probably just end canned music altogether. So let's take a moment to just be where you are, get grounded in your seat, and I'll let you know. We're gonna set this up and see if the technology is on our side tonight, and if it is, then I will. Oh, actually, ready to go. Yeah. You can take that down. You can take that down because I think we're ready to go. All of the TV may have gone off. Okay, so I just need to see what I do with my remote. Thank you. Okay, so this song is called "No Longer Slaves to Fear." So that's what we're going to remind ourselves. We're no longer slaves to fear.
With a melody, you surround me with song.
All right, did you get the message? I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I am no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. You are a child of God. You are no longer a slave to fear. Because we have tools. Okay, so we'll end with this. I follow in the way appointed to me. I have a special place to fill, a role for me alone. You have a special place to fill, a role for you alone. Salvation waits until I take this part as what I choose to do. Until I make this choice, I am a slave to time and human destiny and fear. But when I willingly, gladly go by the way Spirit planned and appointed me, then I will recognize salvation is already here, already given to all my brothers and sisters, and already mine as well. So, amen, do that. We are no longer slaves to fear. And if you would like to help the ministry keep moving forward, please find the PayPal link for your donation. I love you. I bless you. Namaste. See you next week.